Hello, everyone. Welcome back ashore. We have a very special guest marooning, arriving, washing ashore with us tonight in his very appropriate Gilligan's bucket hat. Who just washed ashore?
It's the seawater, I swear. What's up, man? It's Patrick from everywhere.
Yeah. I was gonna say you've probably heard him referenced on our show. I know you have. We've done live streams with him, and Patrick is a little bit everywhere.
More than a little bit everywhere. I tend to stick my fingers places they shouldn't be.
Well, very good, Patrick. Thanks for joining us. You're in great company. It might be a little bit lonely here, but at least the games are rock solid.
So I'm here for, man. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Not only is Patrick just an outstanding game opponent, and it's not just limited to war games or historical games or anything like that. It's whatever you want to play. You know that you can count Patrick in at least once for it.
More than once, most of the time. Even if it's something terrible. There have been a couple of games where I think you and I have even said, "Oh man, that was terrible," and then you're getting an invite back to it immediately. Like that was just dog, and yeah, here we are again. So
Patrick is also the proud office administrator for History on the Table.
Absolutely.
Look at that.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, great, Patrick. I think just to we've added a category tonight. So before we dive into the questions, why don't we just knock a list off or a game off your list? Let's start with something you and I have certainly dabbled in a little bit. Which card game did you wash ashore with?
Ooh, card game.
Yep.
So I went back, I did a little bit of homework, and I listened to all of the episodes as I was compiling the list of every game that everybody.
You sure did.
I did. I got to earn my keep, right? And some of the options I'd like to say for card game were they stretched the definition.
We allow it.
Twilight Struggle. I think Mark picked Twilight Struggle.
Sure did.
That's a great option. So that's not my choice, though. I'm going to bring Undaunted Stalingrad onto the island with me for my card game because that counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking up the list that you so wonderfully crafted here, and I think that's our first deck builder. I mean, obviously, I guess Pathfinder CCG I think has some elements, but like Lord of the Rings and Arkham Horror, you build decks out of the game, but in a deck builder, that's the first. Plus, it's historical.
I'm a one-trick pony, kind of.
Why Stalingrad? Have you played the others?
I have. So
okay.
The only one I'm still waiting on, I've seen a couple of people with Battle of Britain out in the wild. Very excited for that one. But the one I've played the most, I guess there's an asterisk, is North Africa, which is a fantastic game. It's really hard to beat what you get in the box, how much replayability there is, even without the solo cards and everything from reinforcements. It's a great time. So take all of that and multiply it by 50, and you get Undaunted Stalingrad. It's just this ridiculous legacy deck builder historical war game, and it's just wonderful. Me and my local game buddy Will played, maybe 4 or 5 scenarios out of it. And it feels like it swings back and forth. I don't know if I took any pictures of the full Stalingrad board setup, but it's pretty ridiculous how big it is. But you only ever play in a little section of it. So yeah, that's my choice. I love those games. You can teach it in 4 minutes and maybe 4.5 minutes, call it, and you're rocking and rolling. So it's easy, whatever, the monkeys on the island, we can teach them how to play Undaunted Stalingrad, and we'll have opponents for life.
So I don't want to make any assumptions. This series has eluded me, and I need to remedy that with any of them. I had the original at one point and ended up not keeping it before I got a chance to play it, which is a real shame because obviously
Mhm.
this has been just over the last few years, ever since Undaunted Normandy came out, just one of the best received for, I would say, like the mass public, right? I mean, it's this has its fingers, to use your analogy, in everyone's pie.
Right.
So if you're unfamiliar, it's designed by David Thompson and Trevor Benjamin, and there's a series of them all following the Undaunted game. And Patrick, I'll let you confirm this, but generally a deck builder is you'll start with a basic deck of cards, and the mechanics of the game are you play those cards and eventually buy or somehow acquire new cards to make your deck better, to do bigger, better, cooler things. The classic is Dominion. Is that present in Undaunted?
So a little bit, right?
Okay.
So a lot of the deck building, especially with Stalingrad, happens because it's a legacy game. You know, you start out in mission one, and then depending on which side wins, the Soviets or the Germans, you build your deck a little differently at the beginning of the game. Um, but it's not really a deck builder. I would
Okay.
say it's like a deck subtractor, right? So there's no your guys on the board aren't you're not taking wounds to them. You're not marking wounds or anything on the counters themselves. The way that you track that is you subtract their activation cards out of the various deck piles, right? So either out of your hand or your discard pile or your draw deck, or at the very worst, your I guess there is a deck market kind of your sideboard, I guess I'll call it. So yeah, and you're taking away your hit points for those individual different styles of platoons, right? Like your machine gun platoon or whatever is will take hits that way. Does that make sense?
So as they take hits, they lose cards and lose
Correct.
effectiveness.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool, interesting.
Yeah, it's a really cool system. And I gotta see. Here we go. I gotta throw another asterisk out there. This is a shit show already. You do build the deck, right? You start with a base deck. You are correct, and you have a couple of cards in your hand or in your initial deck, like your actual platoon leader or your sergeants, and they let you add cards to your deck. Or
Okay.
you can add negative cards to your opponent's deck with Fog of War cards that don't do anything. They just take up space, right?
Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
and
That's
now
interesting.
you only need 2 more minutes of rules and you've got it. So,
Very cool. Well, I'm going to peel back the curtain a little bit. Just what I know about you,
sure,
um, but I think you've shared this before, right? I mean, your roots come from miniature gaming. Is that right?
that is correct. Yeah, I picked up. I went over to a friend's house, and I'm fairly young for the wargaming hobby. So we won't go too far down that rabbit hole. But when I was in middle school, I went over to a buddy's house, and he had these cool little soldiers all over his room, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" He's like, "Oh, those are Space Marines." And I'm like, "Those are the coolest things I've ever seen." So of course I was like, "Can I borrow one? I got to show my dad." My dad's kind of a super nerd too, and I brought it home, and I'm like, Dad, look at this. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." And he's like, "Son," and he turns around and opens the closet, and there's just
No.
row upon row of stuff that orcs, Space Marines, Tyranids, everything that he built and painted from when he was in high school and college. And he's like, "I've tried to get you to like this for so long, and you didn't take to it. Why did you went to a friend's house? What the hell?" So yeah, and that's where it all started. So Games Workshop, shout out, love you guys, hugs and kisses.
But at some point, I think when we first met and started talking and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
you had a big display case and
Mm-hmm.
tons of miniatures in the closet, and you've since, obviously it's sounds like it's something you still love and enjoy,
Sure.
but um you've since kind of transitioned away, just how I've interacted with you over the
Mm-hmm.
last year or so, into historical gaming, as well as we play a ridiculous amount of games on BGA.
Yep.
So what was the hook into historical?
So I don't know if you remember, but in 2019, 2020, this little thing happened where all of us had to stay home.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And yeah, so that was a whole thing. And it's really hard to play at a 6x4 table with miniatures and rule books and rulers when you're in your apartment in Atlanta and can't leave for months at a time because the world is ending. And so, yeah, I had, I'd done some hobby board gaming before, right? I mean, I have Power Grid, one of my
Nice.
favorite games. You may hear that come up again later, maybe. Um, and stuff like that, Smash Up, all of the Ticket to Ride, all that kind of thing. Um, but I'd had Twilight Struggle for a really long time, and I started. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like what this does. Uh, but then I was looking for things to do by myself, right? Or with very few people because we're all at home. So actually, the very first kind of thing the first rabbit hole I fell down through was the Player's Aid and their YouTube channel and all of their kind of reviews and play by whatever videos of historical board games, and ended up picking up Agricola, Master of Britain from Hollandspiel. That was my gateway drug. I started playing that. I was like, oh, this is super. There's 6 pages of rules, and I get to move little pieces of cardboard around on the map, and it's still really interesting. Lots of interesting choices to make, and I lost in like a turn and a half, and I was like, well, that sucks. Let me do it again, and it just there we go. Then the next day, something else from Hollandspiel showed up, and then the next day, and the next day, and
And
here we
since
are.
you've had a steady stream of historical board game arrivals
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
since.
It's really just the tap got turned off on the miniatures and turned on full bore for the historical stuff. So
Honey, I've got great news. I'm not buying miniatures anymore.
yeah, I think we had that conversation at one point. She's like, "I'm so happy that you don't buy miniatures anymore. They were just sitting in stacks in the closet, and you never touched them. There's still some in shrink wrap as I'm shoving the board games on the closet that are still in shrink wrap. Like, no, we don't do that anymore.
You
I
walk
don't.
by carrying a box.
Yeah. Noble
Old
Knight. What's
Patrick.
that?
Uh,
Yeah, it's great. It's
well,
wonderful.
let's get your spoiler out of the way, and let's see if it's Power Grid or not, and let's talk about which non board game are you washing ashore with?
A Feast for Odin.
Oh, I love you. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So
no,
happy to have this on the island.
it's. I don't know. I will drop anything on Board Game Arena or at home or anything to play Tetris of sheep and fish
Mm-hmm.
anytime. Like it's so ridiculous, and you're not actually playing against anybody. I don't know if
Oh
I've ever.
no, no, not
No,
at all.
it's you're just in your own little land, putting the little sheep and little fish and little. Oh, it's so good, and yeah, I love that game. It's so stupid that I love it so much, but I love it.
So, for those who don't know, Feast for Odin is Uwe Rosenberg design. It's it was not his first what do they call them, polyhedral design, where you're using like the Tetris type pieces, but it was like the first to combine that with worker placement, I think. Anyways, basically you're placing your Vikings and you go out and you try to collect treasure and you make offerings, and maybe you'll go conquer an island, and you want to cover up all these negative modifiers by placing these Tetris pieces on these cool boards. It is my second favorite Uwe Rosenberg game. If you want to know my favorite, go listen to the draft this year. But what I like about A Feast for Odin, and Patrick, I'll be interested to hear why you like it so much, is even if it's an illusion of choice, even if there are some strategies that are way better, the fact that you have 70 different choices, I don't know what it is, I don't remember how many spots there are, but there's an abundance of choices of actions where you can go place your workers to go carry out an action. Even if they're bad, I still like enjoy carrying them out. There's just so many things to do, and it's fun to. Are you going to focus on sheep and cows this game? Are you going to focus on raiding this game? Are you going to focus on whaling or growing vegetables or whatever it is? I just love having all those choices.
100% agree. That's why it's on my list. I think I started up one I think I started up with one with you and Pete, and I'm like, I'm gonna go we're gonna go raiding this game. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be fun, everybody I talk to and play this game with, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go immigrate. I'm gonna move all my Vikings to another place just because I can." And it's so good. That I love just how many choices there are. It's never gonna grow old. I mean, I'm sure it would eventually, but on a desert island, it's variety is the spice of life, right? So having a game that can do has that many paths to victory is the key, right?
That's well said. If you're going to bring a worker placement game, having one with lots of variety is a solid choice.
And you did say that, I think this has been a caveat in a couple of the other Desert Island ads, that it comes with all the expansions and everything. So, yeah, there's 800 cards or something ridiculous for occupations. And I don't know about you. Do you ever, when you're playing A Feast for Odin, do you ever use the occupations?
Yep.
I'm so bad at knowing when to play occupations. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've played that game now, because my wife and I play. We used to play constantly, and we've since slowed down. But we played again recently and stuff. But the one thing I like about doing the occupations, which are different cards that you can play in your tableau, and they may do one or three different things. I mean, well, there's hundreds of them, but they'll either give you an ongoing effect or a one-time effect or an effect you can do over and over again. Mm-hmm. When I crack open a new game on BGA, which Board Game Arena is fantastic for, just like, hey, let's throw one together and I'm going to try something new because I know in a week we're going to be re-racking and firing up a new game. If it's a profession I haven't used before, it'll push me to a new, oh, this is pushing me to grow peas. That's not a profession in the game, but might as well be. So because then I'll do it and then try to push it and see, okay, how well can I do using this this profession?
That's fair. I think my problem is I never play my occupations and my cards early enough. I get so laser focused on oh my God, I need a whaling boat right now, that I need it to happen. And then I get to the end of the turn and I'm like, oh, I have all these cards, or the end of the game and I've got 15 occupation cards. I'm like, well,
yep.
So
yeah, I mean, it is a game of all these choices, but you do, I think, get the most benefit from being laser focused. Yep. If you're going to go whaling and use cards and actions that enhance whaling. Don't just drop a card that gives you a sheep if you're not going to be then somehow manipulating that sheep.
This podcast brought to you by PETA and everybody for whaling.
It's a great game. Awesome choice. Glad to have it on the island.
Power Grid was my alternate. If this one got drafted before Power Grid was the number 2.
Very good. Okay. If you need to edit this part out, let me know. But you recently had some big personal news, right?
Oh yeah, I'm going to be a dad.
It's amazing.
It's super exciting. We are just in the second trimester now, so we're happy to start spreading the news and being all excited about it. So, little boy on the way, which for everybody else was really, really surprising, but for my family, this is the 6th generation of boys. So, very exciting, man. Cannot wait to meet them.
Well, congratulations, first off. Thank you. I want to do a throwback to, we've since changed the name of Deserted Island Dice, and it started as Deserted Island Dads because I started this when I was going on paternity leave for our second child. And a lot of my original conversations were about gaming with family. I think it's really cool that, you come home with a Space Marine and then your dad opens the closet of nerddom with all his miniatures. And with a little one on the way, my aspirations, I was buying games for our kids, and not many. I bought 3 before we even knew we were going to have kids, and then as soon as they were 9 months old, I remember I bought a Haba Lighthouse. One, I love Lighthouses. 2 was Haba, and it's oh great, this is my first entry into board gaming, and our oldest has done all right. But is this gonna be? Are you gonna be kind of like me? All right,
oh yeah,
pick up those dice, son. We're playing games, and they're still trying to lift their head up, or what?
Yeah, no, that's definitely how it's going. The very first one, I bought my first onesie the other day, and it is a D&D character sheet onesie. So because of course it is. I mean, I have very fond memories growing up playing the. You remember? Did you ever play any of those the yellow box German games? Is that Haba? Is
That's
that
Haba,
them?
yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
they had one called Schneeman, which is just snowman, and that's like earliest core memories is playing this game where you're stacking up snowmen, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. So, yeah, no, I'm sure there's going to be a copy of Schneeman somewhere in the house before too long, and no,
Dosh Neyman from Hava, for those looking for it.
that's my war game choice, by the way.
Dosh Neyman. So it sounds like, I mean, you've already answered the question, but it sounds like for you, even that your gaming is not only with a bunch of strangers on the internet and local friends, but it sounds like gaming in your family has been an important part of your upbringing, or at least
Oh yeah,
an element
absolutely.
of it.
Yeah, I mean, and I post on the Discord for History on the Table and on AAC, the other guild, and I mean that every time I go home for Christmas or something,
Hmm.
everybody I'm always like, oh, we're playing 1830, with the fam jam, and everybody makes fun of my parents' tablecloth, but
Yeah.
fun fact, or it's something that we've always done. It's something that we will continue to do, and it's yeah. So it's an important part of my life. So
Yeah, I mean, and I'm right there with you, and I've shared like our family did different things, and
mhm.
one side of the family's kind of drifted away from it, but I'm sure like once things are back to normal, they'll go back to it. But
Sure.
with our in-laws and stuff, man, before it's harder to do now with kids, but before
Mhm.
kids, we were playing like spades every weekend, spades and
Yep.
at least one other trick taker, whether it was rook or pinochle or something like that. But
Yep. Gin rummy is what we
yeah,
play. I mean, I can get anybody from any generation of my family to sit down, and we'll have four people playing gin rummy before you can say anything, or
it's
bunko,
awesome.
or mahjong, or whatever little old ladies play. It's a great time.
Love it. Love it. Okay, you mentioned the trigger word for our next category by
Uh
saying
oh.
1830. So if you that's like you just got slimed on
Hmm.
Nickelodeon, right, for
Hmm.
saying
Hmm.
1830. So which we're adding the category here because when Paul was on the island, he came floating in on an 1830 box. What train game are you washing ashore with?
Okay, so this was the second hardest category to pick for, just so you know, because I really love 1848. Like it is a fantastic train game. I
Hmm.
love Australia, but it's not the one I'm picking. I I will stop anything and everything that I'm doing to play a game of 1846. I love the Race
Wow.
to the Midwest. And it was my gateway drug. Like I played some 1830 or some 1889. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of cool. And then I'm pretty sure you were in one of my first games, 46, where we set it up on 18xx.games. And I'm like, okay, this is way cooler than any of the other 18xx games we've played. Um, but on the grand scale of train games, I am 100% an operational player in an
Sure.
18xx game. Like that is what I live for. Let me lay track. Let me move trains. Let me get money. Like that's the cool part of the game. The stock manipulation stuff, like, yeah, okay, sure, great, but like that's the part that gets us to the cool part of the game. So, hot takes.
I love it. 46 was my second. I played a game of 31st and I played 46 once.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I think 46 is a fantastic game. It's not an on my Mount Rushmore. Have
Sure,
talked
sure.
several times about our favorite train games, but it's still a game when I do go back to it. Like we just wrapped up a game recently. Um, like last week or the week before or so, and
Yeah,
it
something
had
like
been a while
that.
since I played, and it's great to go back to 46. I mean, it's familiar, and I agree. It's just you don't get in a ton of stock shenanigans, but you do get huge dividends and build long runs and get trains that just pay out buku bucks.
It's also so the transition going back to playing games with family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see my parents as much as I used to. I used to, we all lived in the same, even in college. Like they moved to Auburn, War Eagle, first of all. We all lived in Auburn even when I was in college or after college. Like we were all in the same town. So, but now I live in Atlanta and it's hard. I see them maybe once every quarter, once every 2 months. But I do get to see my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and my cousins on my wife's side a lot. And they're huge board gamers too, which hobby hot tip, marry into a family of nerds. And it's a great time. And it was the easiest. Like we taught them how to play 1846, and it wasn't undaunted levels of quick, but it was 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and we were playing train games. And then after the last vacation, I'm like, hey, we can do this on 18xx.games, and they're like, that sounds like a porn website. And I'm like, it's
sure
not. I promise. Yeah, and then we played 3 or 4 back to back to back, and now there's jokes. It's just another layer of family goodness. So that's another reason 46 has a soft spot for me, is it's family trainings, man.
So I cut my teeth on train games or tried to learn train games. What I in my mind is what I consider as like kind of the, I don't know, current listeners would probably, maybe they disagree or not, but what I think is the peak of heavy cardboard, with the original cast and Punching Cardboard was doing their thing and all that stuff. And so then at that point, it was really hard to get into 18xx games. You either had to do a print and play or find someone with an old copy of 1830. Anyways, it just wasn't as easy. So eventually I did. I found someone with a copy of 1830 and we played and I loved it. But where did you cut your teeth on 18xx games specifically?
So I'm a millennial child, and my first game was on 18xx.games.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know what people were talking about when, I can't remember which Discord server it was, but they're like, hey, we're playing train games. I'm like, sure, okay, whatever that means. Do they have, are we talking like train guns, like World War One? Like, is that what's happening here? And then they're like, no, it's a stock game. We get to stare at stock artwork for like 7 hours. I'm like, that sounds awful. Okay. And here we are. Now I think, hold on, let me just click over. I have, it's kind of light right now. I only have 16 games going.
Holy shit.
.games. The high point was 52 at one point.
Going at once? That's
going at once.
Bonkers.
And I want to say that I won like a quarter of them. I'm not. I did.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the processing.
I don't win any of those games. It's fine. It was a terrible decision. Don't do that. But it was a good time. It's important to keep. It's important to keep an active lifestyle.
That's right. Your wrist muscles, it must be. I'm not going to go down that path any further.
Well,
let's shift gears, if you will.
Sure.
We recently announced a new side project. I'm really excited for it. Black Lodge Trivia Night.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, it's for RPG fans. You can go on YouTube or wherever you aggregate your podcasts and search Black Lodge Trivia Night, and we'll put a link down in the show notes. But the reason I bring that up is because it looks like you washed ashore with an RPG.
Oh, I did. This was another hard. It's funny. All of these categories are really hard.
Yeah.
If you really think about it. So I changed this one a bunch of times, but I settled on a game that I will evangelize till I'm blue in the face. I'm going to wash ashore with Savage Worlds.
Great.
And if I have to be specific, I'm going to wash ashore with Deadlands from Savage Worlds. We're in the Savage Worlds family.
Do you have to be specific? I don't know.
No,
That's a good
no.
question.
With Savage Worlds, no, no. It's just action packed, hero focused goodness. Like, do you want to do the spiel on what you do?
Yeah, I mean, what's great about Savage Worlds to me is you have stats, and then but really what you take are, what are they called? Advantage. You have advantages, and I mean, you're
Advantages
going
and
to do way better. You
disadvantages.
have advantages and disadvantages that like give you good things and let you do more things, but you're like powers, for lack of a better word. What are those called? Traits? I don't even
Traits,
remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're your traits, and that's how you build your character. Is
Right.
you take positive traits and negative traits, and then and that's how you build your character. There's no real classes. I mean, you can have class builds, but you are building your character based off of those traits.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. For
it's
example, you had toyed around with setting up a Deadlands game, and I wanted to play a Wichita Witch, which
mhm.
would have been badass. And just for example, like they need high spirit. And so
Yep.
like I go look at the Wichita Witch trait. That's gonna give me some magic, and they get like a cool badass whip and all this stuff. And but to do them, you can see that requires 8 spirit and some other things probably too. I think you have to take some other magic based stuff. And that's like how you kind of build into that. But it is pretty rules light, but then the action packed is you get like exploding dice, so you can like super
Hmm.
succeed your checks. You can like for great playing or like inspirational things, you get bennies. I've only played at the end of last year. I talked about Savage Worlds,
Hmm.
and so I haven't even been playing Savage Worlds for a full year yet. But I'm right there with you. That's a solid choice for, especially if you get everything. That's a
Yeah,
great,
yeah.
great pick.
If you just say Savage Worlds, I mean, you're getting every kind of universe that you could possibly get. I mean, you got to get Deadlands with your steampunk cowboys. And anybody who sees me around on the internet knows that I love Tombstone and Curly Bill and Doc Holliday. So, the Deadlands cowboy thing appeals to me. So, you're going to get any of your flavors of. We're playing Art's running a great campaign with in Savage Worlds with. I don't even know how many things and what brands of Savage Worlds he's brought in, but it's a lot. It's a labor of love, but it plays so great.
Yeah,
Shout
it's
out
Days
Art.
Fault.
Yep, Deus Volt. Um,
He's doing M Space as well for
oh,
space.
that's right,
He's
because
using Savage Worlds for that.
he switched from Traveler to that, right?
From Mithras to that,
Gotcha,
I believe.
gotcha. Yeah, good choice, good choice.
So,
Go
well,
ahead.
the one thing I'll say is I'm not as big a fan. I've played around with character creation. I haven't run any Savage Worlds. Then this is true of all generic systems. It's better when it has its own thing. Like I would be less interested in Savage Worlds Western if I had to use a whole bunch of generic traits to get there. Savage Worlds Western works because Deadlands exists.
Mm-hmm.
Space bounty hunter shenanigans works well because the fear agent module exists, and you can
Mm-hmm.
use the other generic stuff for Savage Worlds. But even just like looking at the overall generic Savage World stuff, it's a lot less exciting to me without like those specific Savage Worlds things. Like I think they just came out with a magic one recently, right?
I think the one that I saw released today was they're doing an updated version of Necessary Evil, which is superheroes or supervillains rather.
Yeah, but I think they had a recent release of like generic magic book,
Did they?
and it's
Okay.
not like this type of magic or this book you've heard of or anything. It's just like generic magic. So I am a little bit less interested in generic systems like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
where I really like Savage Worlds is one where someone's already done all the parsing of the generic stuff to
Sure.
make it work. They've done all the legwork. Or I can open a book and here's Fear Agent. Here's what you need to run Fear Agent.
Right. And I like that too. I think that's one of my favorite things is once the base system for Savage Worlds, if you pick up the core book, I forget, it's British, whatever the British half page size is, A5 or something. It's whatever, it's obnoxious. But it's like 100 pages. There's not a lot there. It's a small pamphlet basically for here's how you do things in this game, but each of the source books that goes farther Each of those is great. Like you're saying, Fear Agents core book is excellent. The core, not Coriolis, Jesus, different system. What is it? Last Parsec is great. Any of the ones, pick a system. They were doing the stuff that Free League is doing now before Free League existed. They're the OGs. And maybe I just mean that they're IP, whores, but it's
they had some cool IPs. They had a Six Gun, a big Colin Bunn fan. They had a Six Gun rule summary, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's different than Deadlands, of course, but they kind of go hand in hand.
Sure.
I'm sure you could like splash into both, but that's a great comic if you haven't read it. Six Gun, Colin Bunn, check it out. Yeah, I like it. I think that's a great choice. All right, let's get the one out of the way that I would be glad to partake in, but I found that painting's not for me. I love Kill Team. I think it's an amazing miniatures game, but all the legwork not for me. So, what about you though? What miniature game would be your deserted island game?
You're preaching to the choir with the painting thing. There's a reason that I have a lot more cardboard on my shelf now than miniatures. But my go-to minis game and the greatest miniatures game of all time, hands down, heard it here first, folks, is Blood Bowl.
Wow.
And I will go outside and throw hands with anybody who says otherwise.
And so is it just because Blood Bowl is like a miniatures game that adds this like sport element to it, and you like that more than like a squad based Kill Team or like having big armies? Like what sets it apart than, something like Warhammer 40K or Kill Team or something like that?
So Blood Bowl really shine. Blood Bowl as an individual game, like you sit down and you play, I'm going to play the elf team against the orc team. Like that's fun, right? That's a fun 2 hours, 3 hours to play basically the bastard child of football and rugby and Warhammer Fantasy, right? Like it's great. And it's hilarious and it's tongue in cheek and it's just this great time, Bloodweiser babes and magic missiles flying everywhere, and just it's stupid. It's fun. But then where it really shines is, and this is where being on a desert island with every expansion and every team would be great, is the league play for and like the quote unquote campaign or whatever for Blood Bowl is where it shines. And I'm totally biased because, and here I'm going to put my super nerd glasses on. My 4.5 years that I was at Auburn, I was the league commissioner for the Blood Bowl group at Auburn.
Nice.
Yeah. So actually, that was some of the most fun. Like I hyped people up. I had scoreboards. I had league spreadsheets. I had, there were rivalry matches. There was a trophy at the end of the year. Like we went all out. It was ridiculous. And, there's, it's like football, right? Everybody likes football, or most people like football or some kind of sport with a ball. And, to be able to be like, oh my God, there goes, whatever player, one of my players that I remember from my Chaos team was Izod Killhammer. And he had a ridiculous number of star player points, right? So you have stats, you have movement, passing, agility, the usual kind of Warhammer stats, right? But for football. And I'd paid a lot of money for him and like had personal trainers and stuff in the offseason. The guy couldn't do jack shit. Like he could not do anything to save his life, but he was the most popular player on my team. So and everybody knew it. They're like, oh, Izod Killhammer's got the ball again, and he would drop the ball. Or, oh, he's going for a catch, and, interception for the other team, touchdown. It's just, it lends itself to these picture-perfect stories. And I love it. It's just, it's so ridiculous. I don't have a serious bone in my body, Matt. I don't know if you realize that. So, the stories of these that unfold over a league or a season, it's great. So that's why I love Blood Bowl. Everybody should play more Blood Bowl. Yes, I'm sorry, it takes 3 hours to play a game of Blood Bowl, but it's worth every minute that you spend in it.
Awesome. Great choice. Maybe like someday when things slow down, we should do like a Steam league.
We should. It's Blood Bowl 2. I have heard not so great things about Blood Bowl 3,
Mm,
but Blood Bowl 2, like the collector's edition or the ultimate. What I don't do many computer
whatever.
games.
Yeah.
Whatever the collected edition is coming out. It's going to have all the teams. There's like 30 different teams you can play. It's great. It's a great beer and pretzels game, and that's what it's there for.
Nice. All right, Patrick. Now I peeked ahead into your spreadsheet you've made, so you have a list of everything. So I cheated a little bit here, and I'm a little surprised by it.
I thought that you would be.
Okay, so folks, the moment of truth. Patrick, what war game, historical board game, are you washing ashore with?
So you can probably imagine that this was the hardest category because we are a historical war game group. And I was really tempted to put the Men of Iron tri-pack. In fact, that was what was on there for a really long time because Men of Iron is incredible. It's perfect. But I'm going to be on this desert island for a really long time. So then I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll put something like Blind Swords on there. And I'm like, well, I can't just put a series on there. I got to put one game. So I settled on Death Valley, the Battle of Shenandoah. Battles of Shenandoah. So GBACW love. And I think that's gonna be a hot take right there. I think I'm gonna get tomatoes thrown at me probably.
Well, I'm prepping mine. I just like look. I'm gonna give you shit here, but obviously like
That's
what
fine.
you
Go
like,
for
and
it.
everyone like your own games, right? Know that this is coming from a place of love. But you picked like the 5th or 6th best Civil War series, and you picked a game from it. Like
I understand. Look, I understand your wrong opinions. Like it's okay. So I don't have a ton of experience with GCACW. I've played maybe one session of it.
okay,
I know that that's everybody's favorite. But what I really picked GBACW for, and anybody I've taught probably half a dozen people how to play Blind Swords at this point. I love Blind Swords. I think Blind Swords is great. It's my Civil War game. Like that's what I want to play. I want to put it on the table and I want to play it. But it's not something that I don't think. Once I played First Kernstown 2 or 3 times on the desert island, I don't know if I'd want to play it again. Right? Like, I don't know if I'd get the same enjoyment 10, 15, 30 plays down the line as something massive. Battles of Shenandoah has 7 maps in it. It has like 15 scenarios in it. And it does everything that I love that Blind Swords does. Sure, it's a little opaque. It's got its problems, but I love the brigade activation system. I want to activate brigades. It's at a scale that I really like, and it checks all the boxes. I mean, I want to play more. I want to play more GBACW. So
GBACW is chit pull for activations, right?
Correct. So it's chit pull Civil War tactical. I mean, I've got the Battle of Puebla set up right next to me. I've got
out of a different game though, right? That's out of Gringo,
correct.
Right?
That's out of Gringos. Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, I've got that one set up next to me. I've got 2 or 3 games of Into the Woods on Vassal going. Like, if it didn't in real life, the day to day, if it didn't take so goddamn long to play, like that would be what I played. It would be all that I played. I love GBACW.
Wow.
But the reason Blind Swords gets so much more play, and I will evangelize Blind Swords until the day I die, is it's 15 pages of rules as opposed to how many's in this rule book right here. They're 44. So, I can play Blind Swords in a couple of sessions and be done with it. But GBACW just has more meat on its bones. So
one of these days we'll have to play some Line of Battle because I haven't played GBACW, but we've talked about it. Line of Battle is more streamlined. I am jealous that GBACW has the Jipple activation. I think it's one of the things missing from Line of Battle. So like what really needs to happen is someone needs to take Line of Battle and GBACW and like smush them together into one fantastic.
and that's one of my war game aspiration as is I haven't played any Civil War Brigade series or Line of Battle. I've had I've had Manassas from Civil War Brigade series in my cart a couple of times.
Sure.
I've had a couple of games from that series. I've had a couple of games of Line of Battle in my cart. I'm like, and I just have never pulled the trigger. But it'll happen. I mean, as the hobby whore of the guild, I'm happy to play whatever. So just say when, man.
Well, I give you shit, but I respect the choice. Very good.
It's all right. I stand by my wrong choices.
And so Death Valley, just because of the amount of stuff packed in the box, is that
so why? It's got early war, it's got late war, it's got it's got it's got an expansion. It's I think with the expansion you get 10 maps at 8 or 10 maps total, and I mean you're getting like 6 or 7 at Civil War battles out of it, as opposed to Into the Woods is a great game, but it is Shiloh,
right.
Gettysburg is Gettysburg, there's cool individual small maps.
Well, shit, Gettysburg isn't even Gettysburg, right? It's 2 days Gettysburg, unless you're talking about the black, not a Greater Victory. What's it called?
No, the
one
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Most Fearful Sacrifice.
Most Fearful Sacrifice, right? But like even that, I mean, technically that's a different series than Blind Swords. Even the Blind Swords Gettysburg game is for 1 day of Gettysburg.
Right. It's not. It's just. Yeah. It's. Which that one's been really fun. I've been playing that one lately. Longstreet.
Which one? First day or second day? Oh, Longstreet Attacks.
It's second day. So me and one of the guys have been playing Peachtree Orchards, which has been a lot of fun. So, and it's his first experience with Blind Swords, and he's digging it. So, again, look, if I could bring any series or play any series, it would have been Blind Swords. But because it's got to be one game on the island, I gotta go against it. So, this is your fault, man. Your fault. You did.
I mean, you could have solved that problem with GCA CW and take something like Roads to Gettysburg 2 or something like that, and then you get I 3 campaigns in one. And
I need more experience with it. Yeah, and I got to be honest, the sticker shock for like $325 for some of those games is just, Lord.
Oh, well, those are out of print, and like Line of Battle stuff's out of print, but like the new GCA CW is like what, 170 or something.
Yeah, it's not. But
terrible. It's 3 games in one, right? I mean, it's like the equivalent of 3 Battles of Shenandoah. I mean, it's a different scale, so it's not. You couldn't literally fit 3 Death Valleys in there, but
I think that's what does it for me too. Is the scale? Like I've done a little bit of the. I've been playing Atlanta Czars, and I've got, like I said, 1 or 2 sessions in, and it's cool. It's really cool. Especially because it's Atlanta and I live 3 minutes from the battlefield of Kennesaw Mountain, and it's I go like, I live in that hex, and that's cool,
right?
But then I'm like, but that's it's just a generic strength point counter. I'm like, I want to know who's there when I could pull out the there's not an Atlanta GBACW or Blind Swords yet, fingers crossed, but like I can pull out and be like, this is McLaw's division, and Jimmy Bob Thornton's cavalry, and that's cool. I like the scale better.
Sure.
So I know, like I said, hot moment there.
Well, again, I respect it. I don't agree with it, but good for you. I'm glad you brought it onto the island, because then you can teach it to us. You can teach it to us.
There we go.
All right. So I'm sure you're aware, but just in case, we have a little segment called the Hot Seat, HOTT seat, which is just
it's clever. It's clever.
That's right. For it. Are you ready?
Oh,
I'm ready for the hot seat. Do you need an explanation? I mean, it's just lightning round.
No, man. Let's just rock and roll.
All right, here you go. Ready?
No, but let's go.
All right. Favorite military topic to play a war game on?
Ooh, World War I.
Favorite Scotch?
Don't have one.
Best gaming experience?
Founding Fathers at AAC-Con.
Nice. Game you've always wanted to play but haven't?
Ooh, that's tough. Gotta look at Fire in the Lake.
Favorite comic book character?
Hellboy.
Favorite war game series?
Blind Swords.
Favorite topic to read about?
Gilded Age.
Nice. Finland or Russia?
Finland.
I love you.
Uh-huh.
Best city to get barbecue in?
Memphis.
Wrong. Favorite war game scale?
Operational.
Game on your table right now?
GBACW Gringos.
Bo or Barkley?
That's a really... You are a mean person. Man, I gotta go with Chuck. I gotta go with Charles.
I don't agree.
That's
Smoky
okay.
Jazz Bar or Tiki Bar?
Tiki Bar.
Favorite hobby outside of gaming?
Movies? Do movies count?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Yes.
Favorite Twin Peaks character?
You're gonna give me so much shit. Cooper.
You dirty dog. Oh, we're going to have words.
Yeah.
Cooper's obviously the best. It's the right answer. But
Yeah.
just for folks who don't know, Patrick hated Agent Cooper when he
The
first started watching
first 2 episodes, he was so bad.
I love it.
He's
It's beautiful.
he's so good. I love it.
If you and I made a band, what would it be called?
Oh man, that's. I had some good band names the other day. Maps.
Nice. Last great book you read?
Destiny of the Republic.
Last great game you finished?
We talking any kind of game here?
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Favorite book?
The Hobbit.
Who's the best royal of all time?
Henry Tudor.
No, who's the best Kansas City royal of all time?
Oh, Henry Tudor. Still no. Bo Jackson.
I set you up for that one.
Yeah, that's good.
Who,
That's good.
who wins the 2023 Stanley Cup?
Canes.
Favorite Burt Reynolds role? And correct on the Canes.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. I can picture him. Big Trouble in Little China.
That's not
Wait.
Kurt Russell.
Shit.
That's not Burt Reynolds. You're thinking, yeah,
I'm thinking Kurt Russell, aren't I?
probably.
No, he's in. Hold on. Now I have to check you.
Big Trouble in Little China? I don't think so.
Reynolds. This is turning into the Hobby Not So Hot Minute. I'm pretty sure he was. Well, I mean, okay. If I can't say Big Trouble in Little China, it's Smokey and the Bandit.
Well, you can't say Big Trouble in Little China because he wasn't in it.
I mean, if that's the truth you decide to live in, I understand. But I swear, who is it? Big Trouble in Little China? Is it
Kurt
really
Russell, right?
Is it really Kurt Russell? Well, Kurt Russell's best role is Tombstone. So there you go.
Nice. Okay. So, well, now I had to double check the Burt Reynolds thing, and it's correct. He was not in Big Trouble in Little China, but you had me second guessing myself there.
Hey, look, I could have said The Thing too. We're just gonna get all the Kurts and Burts screwed up today.
Favorite World War II theater?
North Africa.
Pacific or Band of Brothers?
Band of Brothers.
Alien
Pacific
or
is really good though.
they're both great. Alien or Aliens?
Aliens.
Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I've never seen either of those.
What?
Remember, I'm 28.
Okay, I mean, you're only a couple years younger than me. I'm going to
Yeah.
say couple, even though it's more than a couple, just to keep lumping myself in the youngers. I saw Scream. I saw both of those. What are you talking about? Come on.
Never
Come on,
seen
son.
either of them.
Worst board game you've ever played?
Ooh, that is a loaded question. Oh my god, I played something that was absolute dog dirt the other day, and I packed it up almost immediately. I don't remember. Oh my god.
Oh, if it comes back to you. Let us know.
Okay. I love Hollandspiel games. Sue Line was like the worst train game I've ever played.
Okay. Scotch or bourbon?
Bourbon.
Chester Nimitz or MacArthur?
Uh, Chesty Puller.
No. Chester Nimitz or MacArthur?
Chester Nimitz.
Hell yeah. If you could wash ashore with one book, what would it be?
Ooh, that's. I want to circle back, I guess, The Hobbit again.
A movie?
I hate you so much right now. I guess it's got to be Tombstone. It's got to be
Nice.
Tombstone.
Video game?
I don't care. Pass.
Game you want to play in 2023?
Empire of the Sun.
Nice. Favorite RPG class to play?
Bard.
Best sports movie ever made?
Moneyball.
Fantasy or sci-fi?
Fantasy.
World War I or World War II?
World War One.
Civil War or Napoleonics?
Civil War.
Favorite MMP game?
Gotta look over my shoulder here. Man. I'm going to go for a wild one. I really, really liked The Last Stand.
Nice. Okay. Favorite GMT game?
Oh, I really don't like you again. Man, there are just so many. Favorite of all time GMT game?
Yep.
All Bridges Burning.
Nice. Mai Tai or Negroni?
Mai Tai, baby.
Halloween or Friday the 13th?
So is it bad if I say that I haven't seen either of those either?
Favorite TV show? Twin Peaks.
It's close. It's getting there. Favorite TV show? There's so much good TV, man. It's so bad. I'll go basic bitch white girl. Say Game of Thrones.
If you could have a coin game about any topic, what would it be?
Ooh. I would want to see a game about. That is an interesting question. I might really want to see one about American Indian Wars.
Nice. What's the greatest game ever made?
Cribbage.
Patrick, sir, thank you so much for washing ashore and bringing these wonderful games and for a great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Always thoroughly enjoy hanging out with you. I'm looking forward to our little upcoming project with Art. And I'm looking forward to the millions and millions of games that we play on 18xx and Board Game Arena and Rally the Troops.
It's been good, man. It's been good.
It's been amazing. It's been outstanding. We've played some absolute bangers of games. Every time you go out of supply in
I don't want to talk about Romulan. There's a reason I don't play that one anymore. It's so bad. Oh, God.
I was like, all right, at what point can I just cut Patrick in two by cutting him off? I just look for it.
Hey,
rope him in.
I did just realize you threw me a softball with that last question. It's the Pacific, by the way.
Pacific War?
Yeah.
Oh no. No. Pacific War is amazing. So good. We recently got back into it, and even like the bare minimum that we did, I was like, I need to play that like weekly to stay on top of it.
I need to. It's on my list to play at some point, but
yeah, I mean, and I say I need to play that weekly to stay on top of it. Just the campaign game, like operational and stuff. Like it is a daunting task, and I think it is some hurdles to get through. But like sitting down and like dedicating a day to an operation, I think would be a really good day. And wouldn't be that bad.
It would be. That would be a good day. A good day of gaming.
Absolutely. Well, Patrick, thank you. Do you want to plug like where people can find you or anything like that, or? Sure.
Everywhere. Discord. I'm on all the servers. Twitter. Sense Captain. Actually, I think I'm AU O'Reilly on. I don't know. Just find me. I'm around. Find him, folks. Smoke signals. All right.
That's going to do it for us, folks. We will be back with more special guests. We have some more in the queue. I see some people on the horizon just waiting to wash ashore.
Wait, so you see these people on the horizon in boats that are crashing and like falling apart, and you don't do anything about it?
What can I do, Patrick? What can I do?
Wow. At least have a Mai Tai ready for him.
That's well, I will do that. I will do the bare minimum until someone washes ashore with, like a copy of Frosthaven to get us all off the island as a boat. Then we're just stuck here.
You just sink. It's an anchor. That's yeah, anyway. It's been fun, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.